My husband caught me on FaceTime with his coworker. He left me and my son. I'm sitting at my kitchen island in our Westbridge townhouse, wine glass in hand, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. It's Tuesday evening, almost 9 p.m. Milo, our 6-year-old son, is finally asleep after his usual bedtime resistance. I take another sip of my Cabernet, feeling the pleasant warmth spread through my chest. I thought, finally, some damn peace and quiet. Rowan's working late again, but at least I get this time to myself. My husband Rowan is at some client dinner downtown, 36 years old, reliable to a fault, and frankly, predictable. We've been married for 8 years, and sometimes I wonder if the excitement died somewhere around year 3. Don't get me wrong, he's a good father to Milo, pays the bills on time, and never forgets our anniversary. But lately, I've been feeling restless. My phone buzzes with a notification. It's Nolan, Rowan's coworker. Interesting timing. I think a little flutter in my stomach as I open the message. Nolan, hey Zara, you around? Got a quick question about Rowan's birthday thing next month. I hesitate for just a second before typing back. Nolan started at Rowan's firm about 6 months ago. He's different from Rowan's other colleagues, younger, more carefree, with a sharp wit that makes me laugh. We've gotten friendly at office parties, maybe a little too friendly, if I'm being honest. I tap the FaceTime button instead of replying with text. My finger hovers over the screen for a moment, and I down the rest of my wine before pressing call. What's the harm in a friendly chat? I think, even as something in my gut tells me this isn't entirely innocent. Nolan answers after 2 rings, his face filling my screen. He's in what looks like his apartment, sprawled on a leather couch, wearing a faded band t-shirt. Hey there, he says, his smile widening. Didn't expect a FaceTime. Nice surprise. I push my hair back from my face, suddenly aware I'm wearing just a thin tank top. Yeah, well, texting gets boring. So what's this birthday question? 15 minutes later, we're not talking about Rowan's birthday anymore. Nolan's telling me about his recent trip to Oregon, and I'm laughing at his impression of a pretentious wine tour guide. I've poured myself another glass of wine, larger than the first. So anyway, Nolan says, leaning closer to his camera, I told the guy, I don't care if it's aged in unicorn barrels, no wine is worth $200 a bottle. I snort with laughter, probably louder than necessary. God, I wish I could have seen his face. You should have been there, Nolan says, his voice dropping slightly. You would have appreciated it more than the people I was with. I feel a flush creeping up my neck that isn't just from the wine. Yeah? And what else would I have appreciated about your trip? Well, he says, his smile turning mischievous, there was this amazing hot spring in the middle of nowhere, very private, clothing optional. I raise an eyebrow. Sounds like you had quite the adventure. Could have been better with the right company, he says, eyes locking with mine through the screen. My heart beats a little faster. Is that so? Definitely. He takes a sip of his drink. You know, Zara, I've always thought you and Rowan were kind of mismatched. I lean back in my chair, feeling bold. Oh, really? How's that? Well, Nolan continues, you're so vibrant, full of life, and Rowan's just so boring, I supply, immediately regretting the word but not taking it back. I was going to say steady, Nolan laughs. But yeah, maybe a little boring. You deserve someone who can keep up with you. I sigh dramatically. Tell me about it. Sometimes I think I made a mistake settling down so young. Don't get me wrong, I love Milo more than anything, but... But what? Nolan prompts. But sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be with someone who actually excites me, I say, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. Someone who doesn't just come home, eat dinner, watch TV, and fall asleep. Someone who might surprise me once in a while. Someone like? Nolan asks, his voice low. I take another sip of wine, feeling reckless. I don't know. Someone who might take me to a clothing-optional hot spring in Oregon, maybe? Nolan's smile widens. That could definitely be arranged. Could it? I lean closer to the screen. And what would we do there? Well, he says, voice dropping even lower. First Suddenly I hear the front door close. A chill runs down my spine as I realize Rowan must be home. I haven't heard his key in the lock, which means he's been standing there for who knows how long. I gotta go, I whisper hurriedly to Nolan, my finger moving to end the call. But before I can, Rowan appears in the kitchen doorway, His face is completely blank, tie loosened around his neck, briefcase still in hand. Our eyes meet, and I know immediately that he heard everything. I think, oh shit, this is bad. This is really, really bad. My heart pounds in my chest as I put the phone down, screen facing the counter. Hey, you're home early, I say, my voice unnaturally high. Rowan says nothing. He just stands there, looking at me like I'm a stranger. I feel my face burning, my palms sweating. How was your dinner? I ask, trying to sound normal. Rowan places his briefcase carefully on the kitchen counter. Each movement is deliberate, controlled. Client canceled last minute, he says finally, his voice eerily calm. So I thought I'd surprise my wife by coming home early. I swallow hard. Rowan, that wasn't. Who was that? He asks, cutting me off. Just Nolan, from your office, I say, as if that makes it better somehow. He was asking about your birthday. Rowan's laugh is hollow. My birthday, right? It's not what it sounded like, I say quickly. What did it sound like, Zara? Rowan asks, taking off his suit jacket and draping it over a chair with painful precision. Because to me, it sounded like my wife telling my coworker that I'm boring and she regrets settling for me. I stand up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I didn't mean it like that. We were just talking. About clothing optional hot springs? Rowan's voice is still terrifyingly calm. About what you'd do there together? My stomach drops. He heard everything. I was just flirting, I say desperately. It didn't mean anything. I had a couple glasses of wine and... Stop, Rowan says, holding up a hand. Just stop talking. I fall silent, watching as he loosens his tie completely and pulls it off. He folds it meticulously before placing it on the counter. I'm going to ask you something, he says after a long moment. And I want you to be honest with me for once. Is this the first time you've done this? I hesitate. There had been a few texts with Nolan before, some lingering touches at company parties, but nothing physical. Nothing really wrong. Yes, I say firmly. Nothing's happened between us. It was just stupid flirting. Rowan looks at me for a long moment, and I can see him weighing whether to believe me. I hold his gaze, trying to look sincere. Finally, he nods once. I'm going to sleep in the guest room tonight, he says flatly. Rowan, please, I say, stepping toward him. Let's talk about this. It was nothing, a stupid mistake. Not tonight, he says, turning away. I can't even look at you right now. As he walks out of the kitchen, I feel panic rising in my chest. I've never seen him like this before. Usually when we fight, he's the one trying to smooth things over, the one who can't stand to go to bed angry. I reach for my phone, intending to text my best friend Maeve, but I see a message from Nolan instead. Nolan, everything okay? Call me back when you can. I stare at the message, suddenly disgusted with myself. I don't reply. The next morning, I'm standing in our bedroom, watching Rowan pack a small duffel bag. He moves methodically, placing folded clothes inside with mechanical precision. He hasn't said more than 10 words to me since he woke up. Where are you going? I ask, my voice small. Elliot's, he replies, referring to his college friend who lives across town. Just for a few days. I cross my arms over my chest. And what am I supposed to tell Milo? Rowan pauses, something flashing across his face. Pain, maybe. Tell him I had to go on a business trip. I'll call him tonight. So that's it, I say, feeling anger bubbling up to replace my guilt. You're just leaving? Over nothing? Rowan zips the bag closed and finally looks at me. It wasn't nothing to me, Zara. It was just a stupid conversation, I insist. I didn't sleep with him. I didn't even kiss him. But you wanted to, Rowan says quietly. You made that pretty clear. I throw my hands up in frustration. Oh, come on, like you've never fantasized about someone else? Are you really going to blow up our marriage over this? Rowan shoulders his bag and walks to the door. He stops beside me, but doesn't touch me. I'm not blowing up our marriage, he says. I think you've been doing that for a while now. I just didn't want to see it. Then he's gone, his footsteps heavy on the stairs. I stand frozen, listening as he says goodbye to Milo, who's watching cartoons in the living room. I hear Milo's confused questions, Rowan's gentle reassurances. A few minutes later, the front door closes. I sink onto the bed, staring at the wall. He's overreacting, I think. He'll cool off and be back in a few days. But deep down, I'm not so sure. 3 days later, I'm sitting in Maeve's sunny apartment, watching her pour me a cup of coffee. Milo is at school, and I've been going out of my mind alone in the house. He still won't talk to me, I say, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. He calls every night to talk to Milo, but he won't stay on the phone with me for more than 30 seconds. Maeve sits across from me, her expression carefully neutral. Have you apologized? Of course I've apologized, I snap, like 1,000 times, but he won't listen. What exactly did you say to him? Maeve asks, stirring sugar into her coffee. I sigh heavily. I told him I was sorry, that it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything. Maeve raises an eyebrow. And? And what? I ask, irritated. Did you tell him why you did it? She asks. Did you take responsibility for hurting him? I shrug defensively. I was just blowing off steam. Rowan and I have been in a rut. He knows that. Maeve's gaze sharpens. So you blame him for your choices? I didn't say that, I protest, but I can hear how weak it sounds. You know, Maeve says carefully, Rowan called Darian last night. Darian is Maeve's husband, and the two couples have been friends for years. I sit up straighter. What did he say? He said he doesn't know if he can get past this, Maeve says gently. Not because of the flirting itself, but because of what you said about him, about regretting settling for him. My stomach drops. I was drunk, I say weakly. I didn't mean it. Didn't you? Maeve challenges. Because Darian said Rowan's pretty convinced you meant every word. I stare down at my coffee, unable to meet her eyes. The truth is, part of me did mean it. Not the regretting Rowan part exactly, but the feeling trapped, the craving excitement, the grass is greener syndrome that's been growing in me for years. I don't know what to do, I admit finally. You need to decide what you really want, Maeve says. Because if you want your marriage, you're going to have to fight for it, and that means really owning up to your part in this. A week later, I'm standing in the kitchen of our townhouse, staring at my phone. Rowan is coming over to talk, and my stomach is in knots. Milo is at my parents' for the night, and the house feels too quiet, too empty. I hear Rowan's key in the lock, and I take a deep breath. When he walks in, I'm shocked by how good he looks. He's wearing jeans and a blue button-down I've always loved on him, and he seems lighter somehow. There's a clarity in his eyes I haven't seen in a long time. Hey, he says, stopping a few feet away from me. Hey, I reply, suddenly unsure of what to do with my hands. Thanks for coming. Rowan nods, glancing around the kitchen. Is Milo here? He's at my parents', I say. I thought we should talk alone. Okay, Rowan says, still making no move to come closer. So talk. I take a deep breath. I've rehearsed this conversation 100 times in my head, but now that he's here, all my carefully planned words seem inadequate. I'm sorry, I begin. What I did was wrong, not just the flirting, but what I said about you, about us. I was disrespectful, and you didn't deserve that. Rowan leans against the counter, arms crossed. Why did you say those things? I could lie. I could tell him it was just the wine talking, that I didn't mean any of it. But Maeve's words come back to me. You need to decide what you really want. Because I've been unhappy, I admit, my voice small. Not with you exactly. With myself, with my life. I've been feeling stuck, and instead of talking to you about it, I blamed you. I looked for excitement elsewhere. Rowan's expression doesn't change, but I can see him listening, really listening. I took you for granted, I continue. I stopped seeing all the amazing things about you, your steadiness, your loyalty, your love for Milo. I started focusing on what I thought I was missing instead of appreciating what I had. And now? Rowan asks quietly. I step closer to him, not quite touching. Now I realize what I almost threw away, what I still might have thrown away. I love you, Rowan. I want our marriage to work. Rowan looks at me for a long moment, then sighs. I believe that you're sorry, he says finally, and I believe that you love me in your way. Something about his phrasing makes my heart sink. But I don't think you respect me, Rowan says, and I don't think that's something I can teach you to do. I feel tears well up in my eyes. That's not true. I do respect you. You called me boring, Zara, Rowan says, his voice tight with hurt. To my colleague, you said you regretted settling for me. That's not respect. I was wrong, I say desperately. I know that now. Do you? Rowan challenges. Because I think if Nolan called you tomorrow, you'd be tempted to answer. I think if I hadn't caught you, you'd have taken it further. I want to deny it, but I can't, not honestly. And Rowan deserves honesty. I've been doing a lot of thinking this past week, Rowan continues when I don't respond. And I realize something. I deserve better than someone who sees me as a fallback option, as the reliable but boring choice. My tears spill over. What are you saying? I'm saying I think we need to separate, Rowan says, his voice gentle but firm. Formally, I've already found an apartment in Oak Ridge. I can move in next week. The world seems to tilt under my feet. What about Milo? I ask, my voice cracking. We'll figure out a custody arrangement, Rowan says. I was thinking maybe he could stay with me Friday through Sunday, and we could alternate holidays. The practical tone of his voice makes this feel real in a way nothing else has. He's really leaving me. He's made plans, found an apartment. Please don't do this, I say, reaching for his hand. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. Rowan lets me take his hand, but there's no warmth in his touch. I've already made my decision, Zara. Just like that, I say, anger flaring. 8 years of marriage, and you're throwing it away over one mistake? Something flashes in Rowan's eyes. Not anger, but resolve. It wasn't just one mistake, he says quietly. It was a window into how you really feel about me. About us. I shake my head frantically. That's not true. I was drunk. I was stupid. You know what I realized this week? Rowan interrupts. I realized I've been walking on eggshells for years, trying to be enough for you, trying to keep you happy, but I can never be enough because the problem isn't me. It's that you're always looking for something better. His words hit me like a physical blow because deep down I know he's right. I'll come by on Thursday to get the rest of my things, Rowan says, gently extricating his hand from mine. We can talk about telling Milo together. As he turns to leave, I feel panic rising in my chest. Rowan, wait, I call after him. What about Nolan? Rowan pauses at the door. What about him? Did you say anything to him? At work? Rowan turns back, and for the first time I see a flicker of something like satisfaction in his eyes. I didn't have to, he says. He resigned on Monday. Apparently he got a job offer in Seattle. I stare at him, processing this information. Did you have something to do with that? Rowan shrugs. I may have mentioned to some contacts at Horizon Partners that he was looking for a change. They were very interested. Horizon Partners? I repeat. That's across the country. Is it? Rowan says mildly. I hadn't realized. For a moment, I see a glimpse of a Rowan I didn't know existed. Calculating, strategic. The man I dismissed as boring and predictable orchestrated his rival's cross-country relocation without breaking a sweat. Goodbye, Zara, Rowan says, and then he's gone. 2 months later, I'm sitting on a bench at Pinecrest Park watching Milo play on the slide. It's my Sunday with him. Rowan will pick him up at 5 p.m. We've settled into a rhythm of sorts, this new divided life. Milo is adjusting better than I expected, though he still asks at least once a week when Daddy is coming home. I check my phone for the 100th time, but there's nothing from Rowan. He's been strictly business in our interactions, polite, efficient, and completely closed off. I've tried reaching out, suggesting coffee, dinner, anything to talk about reconciliation, but he always declines. Mommy, watch me. Milo calls, waving from the top of the slide. I force a smile and wave back. I'm watching, baby. Be careful. As Milo slides down, shrieking with delight, I notice a woman walking toward the playground. She's beautiful, with dark curly hair and a warm smile. She waves at someone, and I follow her gaze to see Rowan approaching from the parking lot. My heart stops. Rowan is early, more than an hour early, and he's not alone. I watch, frozen, as the woman greets Rowan with a quick kiss on the cheek. They walk toward the playground together, talking and laughing. Rowan looks happy, relaxed in a way I haven't seen in years. Milo spots them and runs over, squealing with excitement. Daddy, Miss Layla. Rowan scoops Milo up, swinging him around. Hey, buddy, having fun? I stand up slowly, my legs feeling weak. Rowan sees me, and his smile fades slightly. He sets Milo down and says something to the woman, Layla, before walking over to me, Milo's hand in his. Hey, he says, his voice neutral. Sorry we're early. Layla and I were in the area and thought we'd stop by. I stare at him, then at the woman who's keeping a respectful distance, smiling warmly at Milo. Who is she? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Layla Torres, Rowan says. She's a children's book illustrator. We met at a coffee shop a few weeks ago. You're dating? I ask, hating how hurt I sound. Rowan hesitates. We're getting to know each other, he says finally. I look at him, really look at him, and I'm struck by how different he seems. He's wearing jeans and a casual shirt, his hair slightly longer than he used to keep it. He looks younger somehow, unburdened. Milo, why don't you go show Miss Layla the monkey bars? Rowan suggests. I bet she'd love to see how good you are at them. Milo runs off happily, and Layla greets him with a high five. They walk toward the monkey bars together, Layla listening intently as Milo chatters away. He likes her, I say, watching them. She's good with kids, Rowan says. She has a niece about Milo's age. We stand in awkward silence for a moment. You look good, I say finally, because it's true. He does look good, better than he has in years. Thanks, Rowan says. I've been taking a kickboxing class, and I started learning to play guitar. I stare at him in surprise. Guitar? Since when do you want to play guitar? Rowan shrugs. Since always, I guess. I just never made the time before. Another silence falls between us, heavier this time. I miss you, I say suddenly, the words escaping before I can stop them. The house feels empty without you. Rowan's expression softens slightly. I'm sorry it worked out this way, Zara. I really am. It doesn't have to be this way, I say, desperation creeping into my voice. We could try again. I've changed. I know what I want now. Rowan looks at me for a long moment. I believe you've changed, he says finally. But so have I, and I think we're both better off moving forward separately. I follow his gaze to where Layla is helping Milo across the monkey bars, both of them laughing. The sight pierces my heart. Is she why? I ask, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Is she why you won't try again with me? Rowan shakes his head. No, Zara. I made my decision before I ever met Layla. Our marriage was over the moment I realized you saw me as a consolation prize. Tears burn in my eyes. That's not fair. Maybe not, Rowan concedes, but it's the truth. You wanted excitement, adventure, someone who wasn't boring, and I realized I deserve someone who appreciates me for exactly who I am. I look at him standing there, this man I've known for a decade, and I realize with sudden clarity that I never really knew him at all. Or rather, I never took the time to know him, to see beyond the stable, reliable exterior to the man underneath. I should have been that person, I say softly. Rowan's smile is sad. Yes, you should have been. He touches my arm gently, then walks away to join Milo and Layla at the monkey bars. I watch as he says something that makes both of them laugh, as Layla reaches out and touches his shoulder with easy familiarity. I sink back onto the bench, alone with my regrets and the painful knowledge that I had everything I needed all along. I just didn't realize it until it was gone.